Listen to me very carefully. The life you are currently living, the financial anxiety that keeps you staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., the relentless, gnawing feeling that you are running on a treadmill that only moves faster while you get more tired, none of this is an accident. It is a masterpiece of social engineering. Every single morning across the United States, from the suburbs of New Jersey to the high-rises of Chicago and the sprawl of Los Angeles, millions of Americans wake up to an alarm clock they despise. They drag themselves out of bed, pour a cup of overpriced coffee, and sit in gridlock traffic for an hour only to arrive at a building where they trade the absolute best, most energetic hours of their fleeting lives for a piece of paper called a paycheck. They are wage slaves. But the chains aren't made of iron anymore. They are made of digital debt and consumer expectations. You are told from the moment you can speak that this is the American dream. Go to school, take on massive student loans, get a good job, buy a house you can't afford, lease a car to look successful, and consume until you die. But I am here to tell you the terrifying truth that the giant financial institutions, the predatory marketing agencies, and the billionaire class are praying you never figure out. You are not living the American dream. You are funding it for someone else. You are being farmed. If you do not pay close attention to every word of this masterclass, you will spend the next 40 years of your life as a cog in a machine that is designed to harvest your labor and leave you with nothing but a gold watch and a depleted Social Security check. But if you stay, if you truly absorb the John Bogle mindset, I will give you the red pill. I will show you the exact mathematical and psychological blueprint to break these chains, escape the matrix of debt, and become the person who effortlessly attracts generational wealth. To understand why your bank account is empty, we have to first understand the psychological warfare being waged against your brain every single day. The advertising industry in America is a trillion-dollar weapon system. It is staffed by the world's most brilliant psychologists whose only job is to make you feel inadequate, ugly, and unsuccessful so that you will buy things you do not need with money you do not have to impress people you do not even like. Let's talk about the flex. We live in a culture of signals. Society has conditioned you to believe that wealth is what you see. When you see a guy at a red light in a $100,000 leased luxury SUV, your brain is wired to think, he's rich. When you see an influencer on your feed walking into a private jet dripping in Balenciaga or Prada, you think, they've made it. But let's look at the Rolex trap. You've seen it. The Sprite GMT Master 2, the green and black bezel, the ultimate signal of, I've arrived. You tell yourself it's an investment. You tell yourself it holds its value. But for 99% of Americans, buying that watch is a financial suicide mission. You are trading 6 months of your life, 6 months of your labor, your sweat, and your time away from your family, just to put a piece of steel on your wrist so a stranger at a bar thinks you're successful. What about those high fashion drops? You see people lining up for blocks to spend $1,000 on a hoodie from a brand that didn't exist 5 years ago. This is not fashion. This is a tax on the ego. Every time you buy a status symbol before you own productive assets, you are literally handing the keys of your freedom to a CEO in Paris or Milan. The truly wealthy in America are invisible. The millionaire next door isn't wearing Balenciaga. He's wearing a 10-year-old Seiko or a classic Hamilton because he values mechanical integrity over social validation. He's driving a 5-year-old Toyota because he knows that a car is a depreciating hunk of metal
while an index fund is a living, breathing engine of growth. Real wealth is the money you don't spend. It is the freedom to say no to a toxic boss because you have 5 years of living expenses sitting in a Vanguard account. If you want to attract wealth, you must first stop trying to look like you have it. But even if you master your ego, you are still in danger, because there is a much more dangerous predator waiting for you, one dressed in a custom-tailored suit in a glass office on Wall Street.
If Madison Avenue's job is to empty your checking account, Wall Street's job is to siphon your retirement account. For the last century, the American financial industry has operated on a brilliant, lucrative, and deeply unethical master plan. The entire infrastructure of traditional brokerage firms, active mutual fund managers, and wealth advisors is built on a massive, glaring conflict of interest. I want you to write this down and tape it to your mirror. Your financial advisor does not make money when you get rich. Your financial advisor makes money when you make transactions. The entire system is designed to make investing look terrifyingly complex. They want you to believe that the U.S. stock market is a dark, dangerous forest that you cannot navigate without their expensive guidance. They use jargon, alpha, beta, standard deviation, tactical asset allocation to make you feel small. Why? Because if you think you're not smart enough to manage your own money, you will gladly hand over the keys to them. And once they have the keys, the quiet theft begins. They sell you the lie that to win, you have to beat the market. They tell you that you need to find the needle in the haystack. They encourage you to buy hot tech stocks today and sell them tomorrow. They want you to panic when the news says the sky is falling. Why? Because every time you buy or sell, they take a commission. Every time they put you in an actively managed fund, they charge you an expense ratio. They charge front-end loads, back-end loads, and 12B1 marketing fees. They are literally charging you money to advertise to other people how to give them more money. It is a parasitic relationship. Imagine you hire a gardener to take care of your apple tree. At the end of the year, the gardener takes 30% of your apples, regardless of whether the tree produced a lot or a little. That is Wall Street. The data proves that these experts are actually worse than useless. Year after year, the S&P 500, the basic unmanaged average of the 500 largest companies in America, beats over 90% of these professional fund managers. You are paying premium prices for subpar performance. You are funding their Ferraris with your retirement. Let's look at the numbers, because numbers don't have an ego and they don't lie. Most people look at a 1% or 2% advisory fee and think, that's not so bad, it's just 2%. This is the greatest mathematical deception in history. Let's say you have a 40-year investing horizon. You invest $1,000 a month. Over 40 years, with a standard 8% return, you should end up with millions. But if your fund manager or your advisor takes a 2% fee, you aren't losing 2% of your wealth. Because of the loss of compound interest, the interest that those fees would have earned for you, you end up losing nearly 50% of your final nest egg. Read that again. Over your lifetime, that small fee siphons away half of your potential wealth. You did 100% of the work. You took 100% of the risk. You provided 100% of the capital. And Wall Street took 50% of the reward while taking 0% of the risk. They are the only business on earth that gets paid even when they lose your money. This is the system John C. Bogle saw in the 1970s, and it made him sick to his stomach. Bogle was a titan of the industry, the CEO of Wellington Management. He was an insider. He saw the croupiers at the casino taking all the winnings while the players went home broke. He saw the macho culture of stock picking for what it was, a high-stakes gambling addiction funded by the middle class. Bogle decided that the system was broken, and he decided to fix it by doing something so radical, so un-American at the time, that his peers thought he had lost his mind. He didn't just want to change the game, he wanted to blow up the casino entirely. He wanted to create a company that belonged to the people, not the parasites. In 1974, John Bogle founded the Vanguard Group. He made the company a mutual organization. Vanguard isn't owned by private shareholders or by Bogle himself. It is owned by the people who invest in its funds. You own the company. By doing this, he eliminated the conflict of interest. Then, in 1976, he launched the first retail index fund. The idea was simple. Instead of paying a guy $1 million a year to try and pick the best stocks, the fund would simply buy a tiny piece of all 500 companies in the S&P 500. It wouldn't try to beat the market, it would be the market. Wall Street laughed. They called it Bogle's folly. They said it was mediocrity guaranteed. The chairman of Fidelity famously said, "I can't believe that the great mass of investors are going to be satisfied with receiving just average returns." They mocked him in the press. They told Americans that they were settling for less. But Bogle knew the arithmetic of active management. He knew that in a world where everyone is trying to beat everyone else, the average before fees is the market return. Therefore, the person with the lowest fees wins. By dropping the cost of investing from 2% down to 0.05%, he guaranteed that his average investors would end up richer than 90% of the expert investors. He proved that in the stock market, you don't get what you pay for. You get what you don't pay for. He didn't just build a fund, he built a movement. He taught Americans that they didn't need a broker. They didn't need to check the news. They didn't need to be geniuses. They just needed to own the American economy and keep their costs low. You now understand the illusion. You've seen the status traps that Madison Avenue uses to drain your paycheck. You've seen the hidden fees that Wall Street uses to drain your retirement. You've met the man who gave the power back to you, John C. Bogle. But knowing that the system is rigged is only the first step. You now have the shield, but you don't yet have the sword. You know what to avoid, but you don't yet know how to build. You know that you need to invest, but how does a simple index fund turn a regular salary into millions? There is a secret engine underneath all of this, a force so powerful that Albert Einstein called it the most powerful force in the universe. Most people think they understand it, but I promise you, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't spend another dime on anything you don't need. In the next chapter, we are going to dive deep into the engine of wealth. I am going to show you the eighth wonder in action. I am going to pull back the curtain on a phenomenon so powerful that once you see the numbers, you will realize that you have a superpower hidden in your bank account that you've never used. Get ready, because in part 2, we are going to talk about the miracle of compound interest, and it is going to change everything you thought you knew about time and money. Now that we have shattered the illusion of wealth and exposed the Wall Street machine in part 1, you know exactly what not to do. You know the traps, you know the predators. But knowing how to avoid a trap does not automatically build you a castle. To do that, you need an engine. You need a mathematical foundation so solid that no economic winter, no stock market crash, and no shiny distraction can ever knock you off your course. I want you to pull up a chair. I want you to grab a notebook and a pen. I mean it. Put your phone on silent, close your other tabs, and give me your undivided attention for this next chapter. If you need to pause this video, rewind it, and listen to a specific sentence 3 times until it clicks, do it. What I'm about to teach you right now is the single most important financial lesson you will ever learn in your entire life. It is a lesson I desperately wish someone had sat me down and taught me when I was 20 years old. It would have saved me decades of heartache, unnecessary stress, and wasted time. I have watched too many good, honest, hard-working Americans grind themselves into the dirt for 40 years, only to reach the age of 65 and realize they have absolutely nothing to show for a lifetime of sweat. I refuse to let that happen to you. Today, we are going to decode a mathematical phenomenon so powerful, so absolute, that when you finally internalize it, it feels like actual magic. Albert Einstein, one of the greatest minds in human history, reportedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. He said, "He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it." I am talking about the miracle of compound interest. And I am going to show you exactly how John C. Bogle used this universal law to create a foolproof, stress-free system for everyday people to become multimillionaires. Listen to me closely. This is where your paradigm shifts forever. I want you to write this sentence down at the top of your notebook. The human brain is biologically not wired to understand compound growth. It is true. From an evolutionary standpoint, we are linear creatures. We think in straight lines. If I ask you to take 30 linear steps, you know exactly where you will end up. You will be about 30 meters away, maybe across the street. It is easy to visualize. 1 plus 1 plus 1. You work 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. You work a second hour, you get paid for a second hour. This linear thinking is exactly how the middle class is trained to view income. You trade your time for a fixed amount of currency. If you stop walking, you stop moving forward. If you stop working, the money stops flowing. It is an exhausting way to live, a perpetual hamster wheel. But wealth, true, multi-generational, I never have to wake up to an alarm clock again wealth, does not grow in a straight line. It grows exponentially. Let me give you a classic example, and I want you to really visualize this in your mind. If I ask you to take 30 exponential steps, meaning your first step is 1 meter, your second step is 2 meters, your third step is 4 meters, then 8, then 16, constantly doubling, where do you think you will end up after just 30 steps? Most people guess they would be a few miles down the road, maybe in the next town. My friend, after 30 exponential steps, you would circle the entire planet Earth 26 times. I want you to let that sink in. 26 times around the globe. That is the violent, unstoppable difference between linear addition and exponential compounding. When you invest your money using the John Bogle mindset, you are stepping out of the linear world and into the realm of exponential growth. You are no longer just earning money, your money is earning money. And then, the money that your money made starts making its own money. You are building an invisible army of workers who never sleep, never take a sick day, never go on strike, and never ask for a raise. They work for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But where do we deploy this army? Where is the safest, most reliable place in the world to plant these financial seeds so they can compound without you having to micromanage them? I see a lot of young folks today gambling their hard-earned cash on obscure cryptocurrencies, day trading complex options, or throwing their savings at whatever meme stock is trending on social media. It breaks my heart. They are trying to build a mansion by starting with the roof. They want to get rich by next Friday, and as a result, they stay broke forever. Listen to your mentor here. Investing is not supposed to be exciting. If your investing feels like a roller coaster ride at a theme park, you are doing it wrong. Good investing should be as boring as watching paint dry or watching grass grow. Excitement is for the casino. Boredom is for the bank. John Bogle taught us that the ultimate vehicle for compound interest isn't a single hot technology stock. It isn't trying to guess which company will invent the next big gadget. The ultimate vehicle is the entire American economy. When we talk about buying an S&P 500 index fund, like Vanguard's VOO or VTSAX, I don't want you to think of it as just a ticker symbol on a screen. I want you to visualize what you are actually buying in the real world. You are buying a small fractional ownership slice of the 500 largest, most profitable, most globally dominant companies in the United States. You are buying Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Johnson & Johnson, Visa, Berkshire Hathaway, and Procter & Gamble all at the exact same time. Think about the sheer terrifying power of that. Tomorrow morning, millions of the smartest engineers, brilliant marketers, relentless salespeople, and ruthless CEOs in the world are going to wake up, drink their coffee, and go to work. They are going to invent new artificial intelligence, cure diseases, optimize global supply chains, and sell physical products to billions of consumers around the globe. And they are going to do all of that for you. You don't have to sit in the stressful board meetings. You don't have to manage the payroll of thousands of employees. You don't have to worry about a competitor stealing your patent. You just sit back, hold the index fund, and let American capitalism do the heavy lifting. As these 500 companies grow and generate trillions of dollars in profits, the value of your fund goes up, and they pay you dividends. You take those dividends, you automatically reinvest them back into the fund, and the compounding cycle accelerates. You are no longer looking for the needle in the haystack. You own the haystack. And historically, through world wars, the Great Depression, the dot-com crash, the 2008 financial crisis, and global pandemics, that haystack has grown at an average rate of about 10% per year over the long term. Now, let me show you the math. Let me show you how a totally average, ordinary salary can create an absolute financial empire if you just respect the math. I want you to write these numbers down in your notebook. I want you to burn them into your memory, because this is the exact mathematical roadmap that will set your family free. Let us assume you are 25 years old. You decide to take the lessons from Part 1 seriously. You kill your ego. You stop buying $7 lattes every morning. You stop upgrading your smartphone every single year. And you stop buying luxury clothes with giant logos on them just to impress strangers. By doing this, you free up just $500 a month. You open a brokerage account and you set up an automated transfer. Every single month, rain or shine, whether the market is up or the market is down, $500 goes directly into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. You don't look at the financial news. You don't check the stock market app on your phone. You just let it run. In year 1, you have invested $6,000 of your own money. With a historical 10% return, you might have made around $300 in profit. You look at your account and think, is this it? I sacrificed for a whole year. I skipped the dinners out, and all I have is an extra $300? Pay attention, because this is the danger zone. This is the exact moment where the weak-minded quit. They look at that slow, linear start, and they say, this doesn't work. This is too slow. I'm going back to day trading, or I'm just going to spend my money and enjoy my life today. But not you. You are building the Bogle mindset. You know the secret of the 30 exponential steps. You stay the course. Let's fast forward to year 10. You are 35 years old. You have personally put in $60,000 of your own money. But your account balance is now sitting at over $100,000. You have made $40,000 simply by doing absolutely nothing. The snowball is getting heavier. It's packing more snow. It is starting to roll faster down the hill. I want you to write these numbers down in your notebook. I want you to burn them into your memory, because this is the exact mathematical roadmap that will set your family free. Let us assume you are 25 years old. You decide to take the lessons from Part 1 seriously. You kill your ego. You stop buying $7 lattes every morning. You stop upgrading your smartphone every single year. And you stop buying luxury clothes with giant logos on them just to impress strangers. By doing this, you free up just $500 a month. You open a brokerage account and you set up an automated transfer. Every single month, rain or shine, whether the market is up or the market is down,
$500 goes directly into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. You don't look at the financial news. You don't check the stock market app on your phone. You just let it run. In year 1, you have invested $6,000 of your own money. With a historical 10% return, you might have made around $300 in profit. You look at your account and think, is this it? I sacrificed for a whole year. I skipped the dinners out, and all I have is an extra $300? Pay attention, because this is the danger zone. This is the exact moment where the weak-minded quit. They look at that slow, linear start and they say, this doesn't work. This is too slow. I'm going back to day trading, or I'm just going to spend my money and enjoy my life today. But not you. You are building the Bogle mindset. You know the secret of the 30 exponential steps. You stay the course. Let's fast forward to year 10. You are 35 years old. You have personally put in $60,000 of your own money, but your account balance is now sitting at over $100,000. You have made $40,000 simply by doing absolutely nothing. The snowball is getting heavier. It's packing more snow. It is starting to roll faster down the hill. Now we hit year 20. You are 45 years old. The curve of the graph is starting to bend upward. It is forming the shape of a hockey stick. This is the tipping point. The interest you are earning in a single year is now larger than the total amount of money you contributed in your first 5 years combined. Your money is officially working harder than you are. You could lose your job tomorrow, and your invisible army would still be generating wealth. Let's go to year 30. You are 55. You have contributed $180,000 of your own sweat and labor over 3 decades. What does the account say? $1.1 million. Read that again. Over $1 million. Nearly $1 million of that is pure, invisible, compounding magic. It is money created out of thin air by the relentless progress of human innovation and the passage of time. And if you wait until traditional retirement age, year 40, when you are 65, your total lifetime contribution is $240,000. Your final balance? Over $2.8 million. You didn't have to invent the next massive software company. You didn't have to work 100-hour weeks on Wall Street. You didn't have to time the market perfectly. You just needed discipline, $500 a month, and the patience to let the 8th wonder of the world do its job.
Now we hit year 20. You are 45 years old. The curve of the graph is starting to bend upward. It is forming the shape of a hockey stick. This is the tipping point. The interest you are earning in a single year is now larger than the total amount of money you contributed in your first 5 years combined. Your money is officially working harder than you are. You could lose your job tomorrow, and your invisible army would still be generating wealth. Let's go to year 30. You are 55. You have contributed $180,000 of your own sweat and labor over 3 decades. What does the account say? $1.1 million. Read that again. Over $1 million. Nearly $1 million of that is pure, invisible, compounding magic. It is money created out of thin air by the relentless progress of human innovation and the passage of time. And if you wait until traditional retirement age, year 40, When you are 65, your total lifetime contribution is $240,000. Your final balance? Over $2.8 million. You didn't have to invent the next massive software company. You didn't have to work 100-hour weeks on Wall Street. You didn't have to time the market perfectly. You just needed discipline, $500 a month, and the patience to let the eighth wonder of the world do its job. Take a deep breath. Look at the numbers you just wrote down. $2.8 million. That is absolute financial independence. That is the ability to buy back your time, take care of your children, pay for their college in cash, and live a life of absolute dignity and peace. That is the immense power of the John Bogle mindset. You now have the engine. You understand that compound interest is the greatest wealth creation tool ever discovered by humanity. And you have the vehicle, the broad, unshakable, low-cost S&P 500 index fund. If this were the end of the story, investing would be perfectly easy, and everyone who watched this video would retire rich. But we both know that isn't the reality we live in. Why? Because there is a leak in the gas tank. Do you remember in Part 1 when we talked about the Wall Street managers in their custom-tailored suits? I told you that they were siphoning away your wealth. But I didn't show you exactly how they do it, or how much they are actually stealing from that $2.8 million nest egg you just built in your notebook. What if I told you that a seemingly harmless, tiny 2% management fee, something your friendly neighborhood financial advisor might charge you with a smile and a handshake, would secretly steal over $1 million of your hard-earned compounding money? What if I told you that the entire mutual fund industry is specifically designed to quietly drain the magic out of your hockey stick curve, transferring your multi-generational wealth directly into their corporate pockets? You need to know how to spot these silent assassins. You need to know how to read an expense ratio, and you need to know exactly which funds are safe havens and which ones are devastating traps. In Part 3 of our masterclass, we are going to expose the silent assassins. I am going to show you the exact, brutal math of how Wall Street fees destroy compound interest, and how John Bogle's creation of Vanguard provided the ultimate, impenetrable shield to protect your millions. Grab a fresh page in your notebook, because what comes next will save your financial life. Look at the number you wrote down at the bottom of that page. $2.8 million. That is the mathematical reality of what $500 a month can become when you harness the eighth wonder of the world. You now understand the engine. You understand the unshakable power of the S&P 500 and the absolute necessity of staying the course. But if you remember how we ended the last chapter, I warned you. I told you that there was a leak in the gas tank. I told you that if you do not understand what I am about to teach you today, you will successfully build that multi-million-dollar engine, only to have someone else drive away in the car. Today, we are going to talk about the silent assassins of Wall Street. We are going to expose the most brilliant, sophisticated, and legally sanctioned wealth extraction scheme in human history. They do not wear ski masks. They do not break into your house in the middle of the night. They wear custom-tailored suits,
They sit in beautifully art-directed offices with mahogany desks, and they shake your hand while they quietly siphon away the financial legacy that belongs to your children. I am talking about the tyranny of compounding costs. I am talking about fees. Listen to me closely. By the end of this chapter, you are going to be angry. You should be angry. But more importantly, you are going to be educated and you are going to be bulletproof. Let's dive in. To understand how Wall Street robs you blind, you must first understand a fatal flaw in human psychology. Just as our brains are not wired to understand exponential growth, our brains are also completely unequipped to understand exponential decay. When you walk into a traditional brokerage firm, or when you sit down with a wealth manager, they are going to pitch you a beautifully packaged, actively managed mutual fund. They will hand you a glossy, perfectly designed brochure. The art direction of that brochure is engineered to make you feel safe, prestigious, and wealthy. They will tell you about their team of Ivy League analysts who work around the clock to pick the best stocks and beat the market. And then they will tell you the price. With a warm, reassuring smile, the advisor will say, "Our management fee is just 2% a year." I want you to analyze how your brain reacts to that number. 2%. In our daily lives, 2% is nothing. It is a rounding error. It is less than the sales tax on a cup of coffee. It is the cashback reward on your credit card. Your brain immediately thinks, well, if he takes 2%, that means I get to keep 98%. That sounds like a fantastic deal. Write this down in your notebook in capital letters. In investing, you do not keep 98%. You are falling for the greatest mathematical deception of the modern century. You are treating that 2% as a one-time linear deduction. But in the stock market, costs compound exactly like interest compounds. You are not just losing 2% of your money today, you are losing all the future compound interest that those dollars would have earned for you over the next 30 or 40 years. Let me show you the brutal, unforgiving math of the 2% killer. Let us go back to our $500 a month example. Let us assume the stock market returns an average of 10% a year over your 40-year investing lifetime. If you invest in a low-cost Vanguard S&P 500 index fund, your fee, known as an expense ratio, is practically zero. It might be 0.03% or 0.04%. It is microscopically small. You get to capture almost the entire 10% return of American capitalism. As we calculated in Part 2, that leaves you with roughly $2.8 million. Now, let us assume you handed that exact same $500 a month to the man in the custom suit. He puts you in his actively managed mutual fund. The market still returns 10%, but he takes his tiny 2% fee off the top every single year. You are now netting an 8% return instead of 10%. You might think, okay, I made a little less. No big deal. Run the math. At an 8% return over 40 years, your final account balance is not $2.8 million. It is roughly $1.6 million. I want you to stop and stare at that difference. That tiny 2% fee did not cost you 2% of your wealth. It cost you $1.2 million. It wiped out over 40% of your total potential wealth. Now, let's look at the risk-to-reward ratio, because this is the part that made John C. Bogle declare war on the industry. Over those 40 years, who put up 100% of the capital? You did. Who took 100% of the risk? You did. If the market crashed, whose money was lost? Yours. But when the rewards were handed out, Wall Street took 40% of your total lifetime profit, while taking exactly 0% of the risk. They get paid when the market is up, and they get paid when the market is down. It is a legalized skimming operation. They have built an empire by shaving slices off of your hockey stick curve.
We have reached the end of the masterclass. The blueprint is now entirely in your hands. You know the illusion. You know the math. You know the exact funds. You know the tax shields. You know the psychology. But knowledge without execution is just entertainment. 9 out of 10 people who reach this exact minute of the video have already realized that their entire financial trajectory has just shifted. They feel the weight of their financial stress lifting. They have already smashed the like button, and they have already hit subscribe because they know that joining this community is the very first step of their new life. They are the 10% who will actually escape the matrix. But there is always that one person. That one person who watches a masterclass like this, feels a brief spark of motivation, and then clicks away. They don't subscribe. They don't leave a comment. Tomorrow morning, they will wake up to the same alarm clock, drive the same commute, and continue making Wall Street rich while their own family's legacy rots away. They will choose the comfort of their chains over the discipline of freedom. Which one are you? If you are ready to claim your sovereignty, if you refuse to be farmed by the system for one more day, I want you to prove it. Hit the subscribe button right now. Turn on the notifications. Let the algorithm know that you are no longer a consumer. You are an owner. Scroll down to the comment section right now and type these 4 words as a public contract with yourself. I bought my time. The stock market is waiting. Your future self is begging you to take action. Build the engine. Shield the fortress. Stay the course. Welcome to the John C. Bogle Mindset. Your new life begins today.